Back on the record, is counsel for Ms. Todd prepared again?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I wasn't quite done my direct.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. You're
Sorry.
vested.
Yeah.
My apologies.
No, not yet. So, we are back on the record?
We are.
Okay. Mr. Campanella, I also wanted to review with you some of these other exhibits. So, first of all, as a general question, the documents that are in this binder, if you could look at the table of contents and let me know. My question is whether you had the chance to review these materials in connection with your actual investigation. And we'll walk through them. That's my first general question.
Yes, I'm familiar with these.
Okay, so I'm going to go first to Exhibit 1. Can you let me know if this exhibit is when you're there?
These are town council minute meetings from March 10th, 2021.
Okay. I just asked that this be admitted as an exhibit.
Any objection?
No.
Okay.
Are you keeping it identified as exhibit number 1?
Yes, I'm going to try to introduce them, the ones that I asked about at least in sequence, to give a brief foreshadowing of the future that I'm going to try to achieve here.
If we need to, we'll identify this as town exhibit number 1, and then there's just going to be town exhibit 20.
So for Exhibit 2, if you could review that.
Do I need to identify that as well?
Yes, please.
These are town council, for the town of Greenwood, obviously. Town council meeting minutes for Wednesday, June 8th, 2022.
And what about for Exhibit 3?
Hold on. Is there any objection to this exhibit?
No.
You want to move it into the record?
Yes, please.
Exhibit 3 is Town of Greenwood Town Council meeting minutes for June 11th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Campanella. I'd ask this be moved as well.
Any objection?
No.
And what about Exhibit 4?
Exhibit 4, Town of Greenwood Town Council meeting / public hearing dated August 13th, 2025 with a revised date below of 8/6/2025.
I'd ask this be moved in.
Any objection?
No.
And Exhibit 5, if you could identify that for me, sir.
Town of Greenwood Town Council special meeting August 22nd, 2025.
I'd ask this be moved.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 6.
Town of Greenwood Town Council special meeting August 27th, 2025.
I'd ask this be moved in.
Any objection?
No.
Pause in my cadence for a moment. With specific reference to Exhibit 3, I wanted to ask you about this briefly. Do you recall reviewing these? I mean, you mentioned before you reviewed all these exhibits in connection with your report, but do you recall specifically reviewing the June 11th meeting in the course of your process, the meeting minutes specifically?
I do. They look familiar.
And if you could, to the extent you recall, which of the allegations would you say, in the course of your investigation and your conclusions, which of them did these minutes elucidate for you?
And if I could it's the allegation, specifically, I don't recall the number, but it's the one in which there's a resolution that required Ms. Todd, in part to notify PKS to come to the meeting.
Understood. And your allegations aren't numbered, well, actually, they are numbered.
Right.
But I think you understand which one you're referencing, so I won't ask you to go back at this time. I believe it's allegation 2, but with respect to, moving ahead then to exhibit 7, and I know that exhibit 7 is a very thick exhibit, so if you just, I'm not gonna ask you to look at every page, but you can skim through that and let me know, what these are, and whether you reviewed them in connection with your investigation.
Yes, exhibit 7 is probably about 30 pages, maybe roughly 3 pages, which are then double-sided. They are copies of employee timesheets for Janet Todd.
Thank you, and you reviewed these, this is part of what you reviewed when you were assessing the overtime issue, is that accurate?
Yes.
I'd ask that this be moved in as exhibit 7.
Any objection?
I don't have any objection.
Okay. You referenced before in your earlier testimony before we took a break, an instance of seeing a time where there was handwriting referencing salary and discussion with the mayor. Was that within this exhibit? Is that what you were referencing before?
In looking now, yes, I see at least one of those notations, so I believe that this would contain other notations, but at least one from January 10th, 2022 has one of the notations from Ms. Todd that I referenced.
And are you looking at, I see you looking within the exhibit, are you looking at Greenwood 23? Is that what you're looking at, the date numbering on top? Is that what you're looking at right now?
That is correct.
Okay. And so if you could just skim through them, and if you have an example that you can point to, because you referenced it in your prior testimony, is there any example you can see of Ms. Todd working more than 40 hours but not paying herself overtime? And could you find for me an example of Ms. Todd working more than 40 hours and then actually paying herself overtime? I'll give you a moment to review it.
Would you like me to identify each one as I find them, or go through and come back and
I
review?
think if you find something, you can identify it as part of your answer just as a review. That'd be fine.
Part of the answer in exhibit 38 and 39. This is an example where she paid herself 5 hours of overtime.
Okay.
For confirmation, this is the hearing officer, are you referring to the page numbers at the top of each page?
I am, sir. And for 38 is the actual computer printout, and 39 is a handwritten employee timesheet. So referencing page number at the top, Greenwood 48 and Greenwood 50. Greenwood 50 is the employee timesheet, And she has a notation on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, showing total hours of 12 and a quarter for council meeting,
12, what did you say after that?
12 and a quarter
And
hours.
a quarter for council meeting.
And with the notation comments, council meeting is actually MTG. And back on Greenwood 48 is the electronic printout that corresponds with that meeting.
So was this one an example of a time where she worked, just to be clear, where she worked more hours and didn't pay herself overtime, or is this an example of an overtime payout?
For clarity, there was several notations, there was also a holiday in here, but it would appear from her pay stub that there's a line item, general salary, and then there's another one that says 4 and a quarter hours with a rate attached to it, which would indicate to me that she was paid 4 and a quarter hours at the rate stated there.
Understood. I'd like to direct your attention just briefly, if I could, to Greenwood 56. I know this isn't the scope of the question I asked you, but I wanted to ask you about this page briefly. This is a timesheet that Ms. Todd filled out, to your understanding, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there's no indication of any hours worked, is that right?
Number
This one.
56.
At least in the total, when it says in, out, and total on the total column, there's no indication of hours worked. It just says salary underlined.
That is also correct.
And then total regular hours 40 at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay. You may continue your review.
And that also is back on 54 as well.
Understood.
And I've seen it other places, but I have not stopped.
That's okay.
I'd like to stop and ask you on 64, while it's a notation, there's, it's in line with that last, but there's a holiday and a notation as well that it doesn't appear to pay extra hours, but there's a holiday, but notice that because I am salary, when a holiday occurs, you have to break it down. But it looks like it's regular pay.
So the specific reference to because I am salaried, does that allude to your understanding, Ms. Todd's awareness that she was a salaried and not an hourly employee?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then on Greenwood 66, it looks like there's in and out in terms of when she came in and when she was out in the given days. I see on Greenwood 66 that there's an in and out of 8 to 5 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, but then on Wednesday, there's an in and out of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Looks like. I mean, there's no p.m. or a.m., but it says 8 to 8, in, out, 8. Is that accurate?
It is accurate.
So does that, from your perspective, indicate that she, in fact, arrived and left at 8 in the morning and then left at 8 in the evening on that day?
Yes.
What is your view then, looking at those hours worked, when you look at the notation on the bottom? From your perspective as the investigator, what is this an example of?
This is another example, because to answer your question at the bottom, it says regular hours 40 and then parentheses salary. But she clearly worked 4 extra hours that week, but did not pay herself. I missed that going through.
That's okay. So I don't want to have you go through every single one of these, because you'll be here for more time than I think is adequate, provided for today, I think, to go by every one of these. I'm gonna move on to the next. Well, first of all, no, I already moved these in, so I'll move on to Exhibit 8. And if you can take a look at this for me. Or excuse me, I believe 8 is another tranche of timesheets And I think that's true for 9 and 10. And that would be the conclusion of the timesheet. So if you could, for exhibits 9, 10, and 11, just confirm your understanding of whether these are Ms. Todd's timesheets, whether you reviewed them in connection with your report. Let me know when you've confirmed that, please.
Eight, 9, and 10 appear in the same manner to be timesheets, pay stubs, many pages both sides. 11 goes into something else, so
So
8,
you-
9, and 10,
Our timesheet.
yes, they're all timesheets.
And you reviewed these in
These,
connection with your report?
these would have been ones that I would have looked at as well.
I'd ask that these 3 exhibits be moved in and marked accordingly as 9, 10, 11.
What, exhibits 8, 9, and 10?
Excuse me, yeah, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay, any objection?
No objection.
And if you could just briefly note, for the benefit of council, which years are encapsulated within each exhibit?
Looks like we go back to 7, and since this is where they started.
Sure.
Exhibit 7 appears to be 2022, starts with January 3rd, ends with pay period December 25th, 2022. Eight appears to be year 2023 in the same fashion. Nine is 2024, just making sure here, sorry. Yes, 9 is 2024. And 10 is 2025.
And in your review of these, when you were conducting your investigation, did you observe instances of Ms. Todd paying herself overtime for each of the years?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 11. You can just take a look at this for a moment and let me know what this document is and whether you reviewed it in connection with your investigation.
Yes, Exhibit 11 are a series of emails and communication and attachments between various subjects to include mainly between Janet Todd and David Walton concerning audit matters, with the exception of the last page. It's Greenwood 357 is an email between an employee at PKS and Chief David Walton.
Did you review these materials in the course of conducting your investigation?
I did.
I'd ask these be moved in.
Any objection?
No.
Do you have any sense why the chief was involved in interacting with the auditors? And as a corollary to that question, could you explain who your understanding it is that would be responsible for interacting with the auditors?
The email communication at the beginning appears to be between Ms. Todd and David Walton, the chief, starting that there's going to be auditors at the town hall this week, and the communication is back and forth. The chief was acknowledged that, adjusted his schedule, and was in town. So that starts off with that. And then the next one seemed to be regarding expenses and receipts associated with different accounts.
With,
Different accounts.
thank you.
Was there anything that you reviewed indicating that the chief of police had any responsibility for dealing with audit matters in the course of your investigation?
Nothing that makes the chief responsible.
So, do you have any understanding of why the chief was being involved to address audit issues?
I had to believe that he was asked to assist or to perhaps provide background and context for expenses concerning the police department. The auditors may have questions for.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 12, if you take a look at this and let me know whether you had a chance to review it in connection with your investigation.
These look familiar. Would you like me to identify what they are?
Yes.
This is communication from Homeland Security to the Greenwood Police Department dating back into 2021 regarding transfer of funds and dispersion of funds from seized and forfeited accounts.
I didn't hear that, sir. Funds from,
Seized and forfeited.
thank you, accounts, thank you.
And what is the significance of these in terms of your investigation, if any?
That the town have received monies from seized and forfeited property.
And do you know anything about how those monies were handled or characterized after they were received? Did you ever dig into that in the course of your investigation or find out anything about that?
I did not dig into that part.
That's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and ask that this be moved in and marked as Exhibit
I'm gonna
12.
object, it's not part of any of the accusations here today. He just testified that he didn't dig into it. I don't see what the relevance is to any part of this case.
I have a couple questions for the witness. Did you review the documents attached at proposed Exhibit 12 in preparing your investigation or your report?
Yes, sir, I did review them, read them.
How do they factor into your preparing the final report?
Factored in the aspect that the police department receives funds, the chief's responsible for receiving the funds, and that they are utilized for the operation of the police department.
Did you speak with Ms. Todd about the content of these documents?
Not specifically these documents,
Did you speak with any council member about the content of these documents?
not specifically.
I'll sustain the objection.
Moving on to Exhibit 14. Did you have the chance to review the materials at Exhibit 14? In the course of your investigation?
Yes, I did, and to identify, these are a series of emails between multiple parties, but between Janet Todd and Dan Nelson and Brandon Cessna, and there's varying topics, some regarding the canine. It actually appears to all be referenced subject to canine. These were all reviewed and were used to assess the program and Ms. Todd's involvement.
And what, when you say reviewed and used to assess, were you referring to your process in reviewing them?
Yes,
And did these, what if any information did they provide in the contents of your report as you were drawing your conclusions and conducting your investigation?
There were a couple items, for example, there's one that's dated on May 19th, in which Ms. Todd is responding back to Mr. Nelson. I'll gather the documents, I'll get it done as soon as possible, but it will not be today. Mr. Nelson had in the email to her made two very specific requests on May 18th. So that was evaluated with the rate of requests coming from council and responses from Ms. Todd. And in addition, that they're, just looking at some of the content. There's also some direction regarding authority, who oversees the police programs and police matters. So it was used as relating to responsiveness, responsibilities, and who oversees what function in the town and the police department.
I'll ask that this be moved in and marked as Exhibit 14.
Any objection?
Moving on to Exhibit 15, if you could take a moment to review this. Let me know what it contains when you have a moment.
I didn't hear that, let me know.
And let me know what it contains when you're done.
Thank you.
Again, I recognize these documents. They are emails and exchanges between Ms. Todd and the chief, as well as other members of the police department. They're talking specifically several items on renovation, but the main part of the topics is on the K-9 program. There's communication on May 16th, specifically from Ms. Todd to the chief, copying in two members of the council regarding the results of the executive session pertaining to the K-9. These all became relevant in evaluating the session and the information provided and credibility. And it looks like they all continue to talk about that K-9 program.
I'll ask that these be moved in and marked as Exhibit 15.
Any objection?
No.
Specifically with regard to this email chain and in reference to your report, did you refer to the information in these emails regarding representations that were being made by Ms. Todd about the information that was discussed with council?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 16. I know that the font is small, and for that I apologize, but
I'm quite familiar with this document, it's a small font.
if you could outline and elaborate, please.
This is a copy of a photograph in which I received, and it's a photograph of the email from a person to Ms. Todd regarding that police officer complaint testified to earlier, dated August 26, 2024.
And do you recall how you actually received this? Was it as an image that you received it in the course of conducting your investigation?
This one, yes.
So you, in essence, were sent an image of an email, not like a printout or an actual copy of the email?
That is also correct.
Okay. I move that this be entered into evidence and marked as Exhibit 16.
Objection?
No objection.
Leonard?
And to be clear, this image of this email, does it look like there's a staple up in the left-hand corner?
Yes, it appears so.
What would you conclude from that?
There's something attached to it.
What would you conclude from the fact that, the staple caused you to believe that this was maybe printed out at some point? Or what's your view? Like, there's a background there, looks like a darker colored background, like almost like a piece of paper is canted Anything you can conclude from that?
That somebody took a picture of the email with something stapled to it, placed it on some surface.
And is it fair to say that this email is in fact directed to Ms. Todd?
It is actually to Ms. Todd.
Okay. Moving on to Exhibit 17. If you could take a moment to review and let me know what Exhibit 17 is, and whether you reviewed it in the context of your investigation.
Yes, I did review it. This is an email, copy of an email from the Chief David Walton to Brandon Cessna, addressed to Mr. Mayor. And this details out the interactions immediately following the June 11th, 2025 council meeting that I testified to earlier regarding the behavior of Ms. Todd post-meeting, as well as things that happened over the next following day. And it concludes with a attachment of 2 photographs.
So, in drawing your conclusion regarding, I believe, unprofessional conduct, this was one of the documents you considered in the context of that.
Absolutely.
And so it wasn't just the chief's statement that you considered, but also this document.
Yes.
And what did you conclude after reviewing this document regarding what happened in the ensuing days after the interaction on the 11th?
As noted here, and as provided in his interview, that the following day, the chief came in to find his, I'm gonna call it his mail bin or his office door bin with a large pile of paperwork and information on National Night Out and a bunch of other stuff that appeared to be administrative work.
And did you get a sense from doing this of like how that ended up in his mailbox or why or?
Yes, witnesses confirmed, as well as Ms. Todd in her interview, that this was a pile of paperwork that Ms. Todd delivered to the police department, gave it to a subordinate officer, and asked that he give it to the chief. And the chief actually came over with the information and had a conversation with Ms. Todd in her office with another councilman that was present.
Do you know what that conversation entailed?
I do. Chief came over and inquired about the paperwork, why the large volume, because some of it was items that obviously came from Ms. Todd and was communicated. There he came over to inquire, why is it all back on my desk? And attempted to mitigate, figure out what's going on.
Did you ever get an understanding of why Ms. Todd did that?
I did from Ms. Todd in her interview, and also from the chief. Apparently her explanation to him, and one that she also carried through in her interview, was that she was told by her attorney that it's not in her job function, that she's not going to do it anymore.
I will go ahead and ask that Exhibit 17 be moved.
Objection?
Objection.
Moving on to Exhibit 18. Could you let us know what this is and whether you reviewed it in the course of your investigation?
I did. This number 18 is the Town of Greenwood Employee Handbook.
And earlier on in your testimony, when you were referencing certain standards of conduct, this is the document you reviewed in terms of determining whether a standard was laid out and if it came from, quote, the handbook.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd ask that this be moved in and marked as Exhibit 18.
Any objection?
No objection.
I have a question before we move it in. Would turn the witness's attention to pages 12 and 13, please.
I'm there, sir.
On page 12, under item 10, there's text that is circled. Do you know who or how that circling was made?
I do not, it was presented to me in this fashion.
Okay. On page 13, similar type questions, there's a much larger circle, there's some handwriting I can't decipher, and I'm not sure if there's some type of exclamation type mark or smiley face. Do you have any information on where those came from?
I do not.
Okay. Do my questions raise questions for council?
No,
No.
I recollect this being on the copy I received as well.
Okay.
Can't get a copy without writing.
I don't have one, this is all I received from you, sir.
Right, so this is what you reviewed in the course of your investigation,
Yes, sir.
and specifically, I know I glossed over it before, but if I remember your prior direct examination testimony, you reviewed standards about the security of town records and information, how overtime is processed, and was there anything else in particular that stood out to you about this handbook regarding standards of conduct, aside from sharing of or confidentiality of town information and processing of overtime?
There could be many, I tried to note in my report allegations that I guess was specifically tied to the handbook. So there were numerous things that I referenced in here, but as you mentioned already, overtime, conduct, and performance requirements to do what's asked, etc.
Understood. Moving on to Exhibit 19. Is this a document that you had the chance to review? In the course of your investigation?
Yes, this is a memo from the town of Greenwood to Ms. Todd from the mayor, copied in with the council members regarding her paid suspension.
In this memorandum, well, let me pause for a minute. I'd ask that this be moved in and marked as Exhibit 19.
Any objection?
No objection. Are these both documents?
Yeah, I think they're the same document. It just, a copy is the same document. Apologies for the duplicate. With respect to this document in particular, did you view this as a directive of council to Ms. Todd?
Yes,
Okay. And if you could you just read the second sentence in the first paragraph for me?
you are directed to promptly turn over all town property, including but not limited to all documents, physical objects, keys, key cards, access cards, devices, reports, records, data compilations, and information, in parentheses, including all copies, same, end parentheses, all computers, phones, tablets, devices, passwords to all town devices, programs, software, password protected files, and online accounts, all storage devices, external hard drives, flash or USB drives, CD disks, or any device for storing digital data and information.
At the conclusion of your investigation, what would be your understanding of whether or not Ms. Todd complied with this direction?
With respects to what was found in the investigation, that she had email back records to her personal email, there's no indication that those were returned. As I stated earlier, I could not tell from the video what was removed, but my determination was that she did not comply with this part by retaining the information that was in that 20-plus emails testified to.
Thank you, Mr. Campanella. Moving on to Exhibit, we already entered Exhibit 20, talked about that one. Moving on to Exhibit 21. Uh, Are you familiar with this exhibit, sir?
I am.
What is this exhibit?
This exhibit is a transcript of the interview conducted with Janet Todd on November 19th, 2025 by myself and produced from a company called Scribby.
Okay. And is it correct that both you and Ms. Todd recorded the interview that you conducted of her?
That is correct.
And this is a transcript of that recording,
Of my recording.
of your
yes.
recording?
Yes.
I'd ask that this be marked as exhibit 21 and moved into the record.
Any objection?
I don't have objection.
Moving on to exhibit 22. You could let me know whether or not you had the chance to review exhibit 22 at any point in time. You may not have actually, and if not, that's fine.
Yes, this is, it was reviewed briefly. This is a notice of intent to Ms. Todd from the mayor. This was provided recently through exhibit list, so I became familiar with it then.
Okay. I'd ask this be marked as exhibit 22 and moved into the record.
Any objection?
I don't have objection.
Moving on to exhibit 23, that's the audio recording of the transcript. I don't feel the need to move that in at this time. Moving on to exhibit 24. Would you please review exhibit 24 and let me know what this exhibit is and whether you reviewed it in the course of conducting your investigation?
Yes, exhibit 24 are printouts of those emails between Ms. Todd and Casey Kenton, Kenton, that were testified earlier regarding hunting on his properties.
And so this would be the email exchanges back and forth you testified to involving discussions of town business or issues of concern to Mr. Kenton, and then Ms. Todd asking for the ability for her to hunt on his land. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
What are we talking about the 11/11/23 email?
Right now, this is just a general question. I'm gonna ask you some specifics. So if you could point to what you reviewed in the course of formulating your finding this allegation and just outline for us what you reviewed in the context of, first, inquiries about active business, if you could point to a page where that is, and then second, requests to hunt the property.
Yeah, so the emails, and as I also need to add in, simply pages beyond, also include at least one in here of emails with Gus Kroll as well in between.
Say that again, emails with,
Gus Kroll,
thank you.
Croll, and it's in between this. I wanted to make sure that that was identified. So the first email on November 3rd, again, discusses from Mr. Kenton to Janet with a letter requesting the town considering amending its conditional use ordinance. And on the following, that's a Friday, and then on Saturday is a response from her email in midday, back to Casey Kenton. Good afternoon, that my husband's so excited to go out and hunt that piece of greenwood, and it goes on. Then there's an email that goes back, it comes from Janet to Casey on November 29th, talking about an 8-point buck that was discussed. And that appears to be part of an ongoing conversation that we're having about people shooting deer. As mentioned, on October 29th, different year, those were 2023, there's an email inserted here for October 29, 2024 with Gus Kroll, and this is again, between the two of them talking about, purchase of the property, and Mr. Kroll actually saying that he hadn't acquired it yet. But then there's an email, this is one where this is an odd question, but my husband hunts a small property adjacent to the property in Greenwood and wanted to inquire about hunting on his property.
So just to be clear, I'm gonna stop you there for a moment. That's at the bottom of Greenwood 700, correct?
That is,
And that request came from Ms. Todd?
yes, that's an email, that one in particular from Ms. Todd on a Tuesday, October 29th, 2024, to Mr. Kroll, and that's the only part of the meeting that says Greenwood property, and just that sentence I have read to you.
Understood.
Continuing on, go back to emails in February of this year, 2025, is an email exchange that starts at 10:14 in the morning, that Mr. Kenton is inquiring about the first phase of storage project and inquiring about another budget mini-story expansion. About 7 minutes later, Ms. Todd responded and attached the latest plans for budget mini-storage. And then there are, looks like some more emails in the back of it that seem to be trailers or follow-ups to that same conversation. In that trailer specifically on February 20th, that's back from Mr. Kenton saying, response to the plans, this is helpful, Janet, thanks again.
And so that's in February of '25. And then we've got, I think there's an email back in November of 2023. And I just want to make sure that this is clear for council. So on specifically Greenwood 698, on November 29th, 2023, Casey Kenton asked Ms. Todd, Justin get a deer yet? You see that?
I do.
Did you
And-
say Justin didn't get a deer yet?
Justin get a deer yet?
Thank you.
Yeah. And then on November the 13th, 2023, earlier on, there's a question by Mr. Kenton at the bottom. On a side note, let me know if you receive any feedback from the town regarding our request for the extension of the conditional use permit. You see that? And this is on page 699. Towards the top of the page.
I do see that. On a side note, let me know if you receive any feedback from the town regarding our request for the extension of the conditional use permit.
So it looks like in this email exchange, there's a discussion of conditional use permit, and then questions from Mr. Kenton about whether Ms. Todd's husband had gotten a deer.
That's correct.
And what did you make of that specific exchange?
That her husband was hunting on the property with Mr. Kenton, who had business before the town.
Okay. When you say the property, which property are you referring to? This is the property that earlier on in the emails, I think there's an exchange about posting a sign, like a no trespassing sign, and Ms. Todd asked whether Mr. Kenton would like her husband to post such signs on Mr. Kenton's property. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Which page is that on?
699.
Okay. When you say the property, is that the property you understood them to be conferring about?
Yes, that will be one and the same. It's the way I read this exchange.
So Mr. Kenton's property?
Yes.
Okay. I'd ask, I think I did I move exhibit 24 in already?
Did we move into 24 already?
I don't have a way to keep track.
Okay, I would just ask in the abundance of caution that we move in exhibit 24 and
Any
mark it.
objection?
No. Okay. Moving on to exhibit 25. Could you please take a moment to review exhibit 25 and refresh your recollection as to what this is and let us know whether you looked at it in the course of conducting your investigation.
Yes, this 25 is a series of email exchanges between Ashley Stern from PKS and Janet Todd. And it discusses the audits, inaccuracies, documents needed. Again, there's numerous pages here.
Right. And do you recall reviewing these email chains in the course of your investigation?
I did, and I do.
And what information were you able to glean from them? If you could take a look at them, I know there are a few pages there, but take a look at them and let us know what, if any, information you drew from these exchanges that would be pertinent to your investigation.
These emails cover a lot of topics, sir. Included in here, stopping on one, is communication surrounding the attendance to the July meeting in question where they were invited. There's references on that. There's also conversations back and forth regarding points of contact and other communication with a council member. There's information back and forth where it appears that Ms. Todd is making some inference to internal political motivations of contact from council to her office.
Could you pause there and let me know what page you're referencing?
What caught my eye on that is on page 709, and it's the note from the auditor, Janet. I'm speechless at this point. At this point, I think it'd be best to get the mayor, council members, yourself, and us in a room, not in a public session where there's type of a political motive.
And that was in response to an email sent on April 10th, 2025.
Yes, about 12 minutes sooner, and it's from Janet, but that's definitely in response to an email from Janet, and I can look over and see what it says if you like.
Please.
So it appears that on that morning, that she and two other council members needed clarification on some things stated at the council meeting the night prior. That stated April 10th, so I assume she's referring to April 9th. But she bullet points out 4 items, in particular, talking about the delay, the costs, and she's actually has statements in here, notes of things that were, the accusation for council, she did not get them in a timely manner. And she agrees that there's things that took time to gather from prior years. And there's some indication that there's some suspicion indicating some mishandling on her part. She wants them to please clarify these statements, as she needs this information to decide on a course of action with myself and council.
So, What is your understanding of what Ms. Todd is attempting to do here, if you have one?
When I read this, and as a recollection now, going back, it is that she was looking to find an advocate,
When you say an advocate,
someone to provide answers to the council that she's seeking. It said decide a course of action, but myself and council. I read it as she was looking to see if they can assist her in any way.
what did that lead you to conclude, if anything, in the context of your investigation?
In the context of everything going on, it affirmed that there's some of the information I heard from witnesses about delays and stuff being reported, and that clearly council was asking questions of what she's doing.
And then earlier on, you referenced outreach about attending the July meeting. Could you point us to the page you were looking at when you referenced that? I believe it may start around 00719, 00720, in that general area.
Yes, I see that on 7/20. This is the email on Monday that I had spoken about, July 14th, 2025 at 1:10 in the afternoon. And this is from Janet Todd advising Ashley Stern that she spoke with Vice Mayor Massey and following up, and that you do not need to attend the meeting.
And looks like there's an email on the 14th of July at Greenwood 721. It says, I have spoken with the auditor who has a prior commitment to Todd. Did you review that email in the course of your investigation?
Yes, this was in the same series of communications, and that preceded the one I just read to you.
Right. So, in terms of July, there's an email on July 11th, 2025 at Greenwood 716. This is Ms. Stern, looks like writing an email to Ms. Todd. You see that email at the bottom there?
I do.
And what significance does that email have in the course of your unpacking the issue with the attendance of PKS?
This is referencing this is Ms. Stern speaking to Ms. Todd in the email, that she just spoke with another council member. She's reiterating that they do their scheduling 3 months ahead of time. And she makes a point of saying, it doesn't mean we don't have some flexibility, but it may mean we have other commitments and may not be able to attend certain meetings without proper requests. We do our best to flex. Talks about a scheduled call she has coming up with the mayor, and that she had not received a request from Councilor Mayor to attend a nighttime meeting next week.
There's also some discussion here about outreach to the auditors from other individuals. Do you see anything involving that? I think that would be an example of that on July 11, 2025, page 716, top of the page.
Yeah, this is the email we're referring to on top of 716 is between Ms. Todd and Mr. Massey. And it is a forward of that communication. And she talks about how she's always been the point of contact with the vendors. She seems to be going on, and she seems to be discussing her concerns with Mr. Massey.
Specifically about other folks reaching out to the auditors.
Yes, in particular the mayor.
Do you know why, or were able to conclude why, in the course of your investigation, Ms. Todd might be so concerned about someone from council reaching out to a vendor?
In general, I got the overall impression that there was hesitancy for anyone else to be contacting vendors but herself. And my general sense was it was about information control. And, it's about, knowing what's going on.
In terms of the emails that we had just discussed about, we have some flexibility, and then later on, you don't have to come. Were those the emails that you were quoting from when you wrote your section of your report about, I think, allegation number 2 involving the attendance of PKS?
Some of them, yes.
Okay. I would ask that, if I haven't done so already, that this be moved in and marked as Exhibit 25.
Any objection?
I'm sorry?
No objection.
Moving on to Exhibit 26. If you could just take a look at this and let me know what this Exhibit 26 is, if you have a moment.
Yes, Exhibit 26 is the email exchange between the concerned citizen and Ms. Todd regarding the complaint about the police officer.
So this, to be clear, is the evidence of the email about the complaint that you followed up on with post. This would be the document which delineates how Ms. Todd received that information.
It is, and it also shows, she received it, which is the same exact text as the picture, but it also shows that she responded to him.
Do you have any idea why, and again, from the perspective of what you've investigated and what you've looked into, do you have any sense of why somebody would be sending a picture of a printout to someone versus just forwarding an email?
I don't object, I think it's just speculation. I don't
So,
think there's any basis.
I'll
for him to know
respond.
this.
So he clearly testified to the fact that he understood it to be a photo. The strict rules of evidence don't apply, and the manner in which Mr. Campanella has analyzed and concluded is one of the main reasons why we're here today. So I think it's within bounds and fair, and to look at the lodestar issues of materiality and relevance, his assessment of that would be both material and relevant to these proceedings.
Question for the witness. The photo that's being referred to, which is not this exhibit, it's an earlier exhibit. When you were examining that document, were you forming an opinion as to the method by which the image was created?
The impression was, why was a photograph of a printed email being sent between employees? So it raised some concern as to why are they doing that? So yeah, there was concern.
Did you form an opinion about anything that might be connected to that image? You provided testimony that you had an impression that there was something attached to it.
The statement suggests that it's attached to something, correct?
How was that relevant to the course of your investigation and conclusions?
It's relevant as, don't know what's attached. You have this allegation, sir, that's there, it's a photo of it. And there was also witness testimony to provide that nothing was done about the complaint. So the relevance and the impression I had was it affirmed the witness's statement that an alleged complaint came in and potentially it had not been reported, and subsequent follow-up seemed to confirm all that.
Objection overruled.
So to reiterate my question was whether you had formed any sort of impression. I think you sort of answered in the course of responding to Mr. Shapiro's questioning, but it was really seeing this, document at Exhibit 26 which shows the complaint, which you just testified was the same language as the picture that you sent. Do you have any impressions of why someone might be taking an image of a printed email versus just like forwarding it along or sending it on as attachment or something like that?
My impression was that whoever took the photograph and sent it wanted that person to know, I have this. And that's, the impression was, it was one of, I have this document and just let them know. I don't know if it was an attempt to create anxiety or fear or control, but my impression was there had to be a reason to send it, and I think it was probably a bit more beyond FYI, someone's made a complaint.
And did you, without mentioning the officer's name again, did you in fact interview the officer that was the subject of the complaint?
I did.
And how would you describe the manner in which that officer conducted and responded in the interview, if you could characterize that from your perspective?
I'm gonna object this time, we're not getting the name of the officer, I don't know if we can, he's basically gonna be testifying to something I can't question.
So
That's someone about, I think that's, there's an issue with that, so this is kind of just getting into something where, if this officer testifies, I couldn't, I don't know if I can get him.
I'm not calling you to testify today?
I know, well, that's the.
Okay, let me stop counsel. Can we please go off the record? Can I have you both? We're gonna go out.
Sure.
In the hall.
Take a bail, or you're going.
No, we're gonna stop this.
Okay, Mr. Can we take a bathroom break? Am I
Yes.
fine, just while we're doing this anyways?
If anybody else needs to go now, would be good.
Okay, so you want me to put it in, so you want me to put it in a cardboard box so you understand it?